Wendy, that was so touching, that little scene with maybe Shilpa. I don't know if Shilpa would like to hear that, but it was
Yeah,
so
please
beautiful.
tell me, tell me. Before I get to log off, I would love to hear a story.
Yeah, she lives up there in Ontario,
Oh,
and
So
Katie.
which
Yep.
story
When
was it?
when Katie came to I guess Toronto, and you went to that meeting.
Okay. Okay. I'm not sure what year it was that she came, but she, I believe, was staying with Marwan and Ruby DeBosch. And my husband now brought me there. And I was going through a really unpleasant time in my life. And
What,
anyway, I wasn't feeling good about myself on so many levels. And
and
my heart
and
was
did you?
broken.
Let me ask you. And were you still undecided about Baba at that time?
No, I was hooked the first time.
Okay.
Like the first time, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So when I got the invitation to go with Martin to the Baba meeting, um, of course, I was going to go. We were married at that time. There's just so much
Yeah.
information there. But anyway,
And your background, what you were a Catholic
no,
background.
well,
Oh,
I was high Anglican, close enough.
okay.
Close enough. But I had been labeled as a very young child as a little different because I would go to our church and talk to God, and I know I was talking to him, um, and people would come in and they kind of look at me, and of course I'd shut it down. Anyway, so when I was first introduced to Baba, it was through Martin. He put Baba's hair on my hand, my left hand, and it started to beat like a heart. And I looked at Martin and I said, really, who is this? And he said he was the avatar of this time. And I said, I don't know what an avatar is. And he told me Christ, Buddha, and it was like, I just knew it. I just felt it go through me. So anyway, so Marijuana Ruby had Katie in Canada, and they having this meeting, and I was very uneasy about going because I felt I'm a divorced woman, like I can't be around holy people. Like, no, that would be wrong. And so anyway, we went. My daughter came as well. I dragged her along with me. And at the end of the meeting, everybody was going up to hug Katie. And she was lovely. Like, I just adored her from the beginning. But I just felt so horrible that I was not pure. So I didn't want to go up. And so anyway, everybody had gone except for myself and my daughter. And she looked, like, are you coming? And I got up and dragged my daughter with me. And she put her hands on my. First, she said, so when are you coming to India? That was the first thing. And the second was, Baba loves you. And then she did the same with my daughter. She gave her a hug, told her Baba loved her. And interestingly enough, on the first time that Martin and I went to India, once we were married, my daughter ended up coming as well. She was supposed to be with her father, but it went south. And anyway, she came. And I was so grateful for that because Never in a million years did I think that I'd ever get one of my children there. I have 3 children. Anyway, to this day, I don't know that I could say she's a Baba lover actively, but there have been times when things have come out of her mouth that she'll say something like, well, Baba had to be with us. We came through a snowstorm that you couldn't see your hand in front of your face for over an hour and a half. We were driving blindly, and I kept taking Baba's name, and at the end of it, she came with that. But yeah, Katie made a very big impression on me right at the very beginning, and it just opened my heart that I didn't have to be perfect. I just had to love Baba.
Beautiful.
And I'm
Yeah.
grateful.
Thank God that he doesn't hold our life against us.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I was this horrible person. I just,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add to Wendy's little piece. You said all you have to do is love Baba, but you don't even have to love Baba. Baba loves us, and he nabs us. And despite ourselves, he still holds on to us. So whether we love Baba or not,
Yeah.
Baba's there, and Baba goes, "You're mine, whether you love me or not." It doesn't. I just want to add that because that's a important point to me. That I always say, despite myself, Baba's there.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. No, and it wears off. His love kind of wears off on you. Big time. Okay.
Here is the garden. Where is the seed? Don't be in a hurry to figure out your need. For you should choose wisely, knowing that you're free. Illusions are many that bind us. Now is the moment. Timing is key. Intentions are forming. Will you stand here with me? Silence is pregnant with all possibilities, and stars in this moonless night, they're winking at me. Oh, there is always a point of view, and many are the varied paths that safely guide us through. From all that I have gathered, and all that I have seen, and all that in my heart I hear, it leads me to believe that there is just one answer to our every need, and that's not fear, and that's not greed. It's not the power to succeed, and you know it's free. Could you believe that it's just love? So put away your desires and put away your fears, and know you are part of a universe that mirrors all your expectations and all that you hold dear. Know your discontentment is heard loud and clear. So do take your time, and when you light the fire, or when you clean your house, or you walk on Mother Gaia, your food is birthing remedies or giving you disease. So do take your time and plan wisely, please. Oh, there is always a point of view, And many are the very paths that safely guide us through. From all that I have gathered and all that I have seen, and all that in my heart I hear, it leads me to believe that there is just one answer to our every need, and it's not fear, and it's not greed, it's not the power to succeed, and you know it's free. Could you believe that it's just love?
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh,
That was great, Sue.
Oh, hey!
yeah, beautiful, Sue.
Oh, it's so good to see everybody. It makes my heart so happy. But anyway, it's so, I love you all. Thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
thank you. Well, anytime you're on and you got your guitar there, you might be asked.
Every week you've asked me pretty much for something, and this week I'm prepared. So I found this one, it literally fell out of my cupboard. It says, "He who offers to me with devotion only a leaf or a flower or a fruit or even a little water, this I accept with joy, because with a pure heart it was offered with love." Bhagavad Gita 9:26.
Yeah, beautiful.
I was saying I worked on the provisional ego a little bit, and I had Baba with me all the time, and Baba ate a little bit too much chocolate and things like that. But I came across two things, and one was something that Charles Haynes wrote. He said, "Remembrance of the beloved is offered by Meher Baba as an avenue for ending the seemingly endless cycle of accumulating fresh impressions, sanskaras, in lifetime after lifetime. The central predicament of the aspirant is that every action creates new bindings." And then he went in to say, the way out of the ego bind, according to Baba, is for the lover to remember the beloved constantly, thereby replacing the ego with the beloved as the center of consciousness. Remember, such remembrance creates what Baba called the provisional ego. And then I found a poem that I thought really suited the provisional ego by Meister Eckhart, and it's called "Expands His Being." Should I read it? It's short.
Yeah.
Expands his being. All beings are words of God, his music, his art. Sacred books we are, for the infinite camps in our souls. Every act reveals God and expands his being. I know that may be hard to comprehend. All creatures are doing their best to help God in his birth of himself. Enough talk for the night. He is laboring in me. I need to be silent for a while. Worlds are forming in my heart.
Wow. Save that one. Have that one on hand every once in a while.
I love it. I sent it to Angela.
A great reminder. Mayor Prasad, what do you have there?
I think I read this once before, but I'll read it again. Whatever you face in the world, I am facing it along with you. I will never leave you. I am always with you.
Yeah.
There's a great picture of a meeting at 2 Castine Street that Ken has up there. Yeah, I'm sitting there next to Darwin, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that little room.
Where are you?
This is the living room of Darwin and Jean Shaw.
Oh.
And it's unbelievable. See, you can see Hugh there with the beard.
Which one's you?
Top right.
There? On the top right?
Top right.
God.
And to the left of Hugh is Bill Cliff.
Wow.
And this looks like Kathy Riley, lower left.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's Kathy.
And my brother Bart's on the other side of Darwin.
Right. And Peter Booth says that's him. I never recognized him.
Yeah, I think that's Peter Booth.
That is Peter, yeah.
Yeah, and this is Perry Flynn with his arms around his knees,
Ah,
Huh.
and the guy with the glasses,
Michael.
and a beard. I think that's Jeff Milet.
Michael
that's
Siegel
Michael Siegel.
Oh, Michael Siegel. Okay.
Yeah,
and Sarah with the picture of Baba.
yeah. Beautiful.
Sarah Willow.
Yeah, yeah. A lot happened in that small space. I mean, they had meetings there for decades and decades.
This was 1976.
Yeah.
Who's the baby?
That's Jean Shaw, of course, and the baby is my oldest daughter.
Really?
Uh-huh. Wow.
Yeah, you look proud.
So, kid,
Wow.
The living room isn't much bigger than this whole picture.
Right.
Yeah,
They
and
used to
yet-
joke about bringing out the room stretcher. Somehow everyone fit in always.
Yeah. And it was like that was such an expansive place. The walls kind of collapsed, and you were in a kind of timeless, spacious realm for certain moments in time. Yeah.
Jeff, who's the guy with a rose-colored sweater in the front?
Yeah, that's Ken Nunsig.
That's me.
Yeah, let's have a few moments of silence before we begin. Jai Baba. So, I'll say a few words. I'll mumble a few things. So, in the next chapter we're coming to, Darwin refers to a well-known quote of Baba's called the Game, in which Baba talks about expressing in the world the divine qualities of truth, love, beauty, and purity. And when you take those qualities down to the human level, they express themselves as empathy, forgiveness, humor, generosity, kindness, courage, patience, creativity, honesty, all the best of the human qualities is what we're meant to, we're destined one day to express. And in the chapter we're just finishing, Darwin is talking about moving from one room, leaving one room, and going into a different room altogether. But you can't take the furniture and all the things from the earlier room into your next room. You have to unplug from that. So anyway, I came up with this metaphor. It might be a little crazy, but for lifetimes, we've been in the mind, and I compare that's like being in the basement of a house, and you have these windows that are high up on the wall, and a little light comes in, and you're in the realm of thoughts, and all you can get from the mind is a concept of God or the divine. You can't get the experience of it. And we're in there for lifetimes, and then Baba comes along and tries to coax us to go up the steps into the main house. Eventually, he gets us up into the main house, the main room, and it's a little lot more light, but it's still and it's more spacious. And there are these, and this is the heart. We get into the heart. But the thing is that, and there are these beautiful bay windows, magnificent bay windows, but they have the shutters are the shades are down, and the curtains are drawn. So, but there is some light coming in, and that's the first stage of the heart. I'm kind of giving you the trajectory that Darwin talks about. And for a while you're dealing with lust, greed, anger, envy, ambition, all sorts of wants and everything, all the kind of negative human traits. And after a while you start to get claustrophobic, and so Baba goes over and helps you lift up one of these shades, and you get this view. I mean, your base of operations is the house, but you look out and there's this beautiful countryside. The sun is coming up. There are fields and forests and everything. It's quite magnificent. And this is the realm of the spirit. And this is where the divine qualities reside, and this is where Baba resides. And so through one window you're looking in there, and then the light of those qualities start to come into the heart, and they start to and this is what incredible improvement, because we start feeling some of the kindness, the love, the humor, the generosity, all of the divinely human qualities start coming in. And that's fine for a while, but then eventually we say, hey, I want to get out of this house, I want to go out into that. And so Baba helps us pull up all the shades and draw the curtains and everything, and eventually we are out of doors in the realm of the spirit. And Baba, you can see Baba there in the distance with his arms widespread. When we see him, we run through everything into his arms. So that's kind of the trajectory of this whole movement, from the mind to the heart to the spirit, the realm of the spirit. So anyway, I thought I would that kind of gives a little picture. So we're getting out of one room into another room, and then from another room into the realm of the spirit. So that's my little spiel at the beginning. So Angela?
Yeah, so we're on page 97 of the book, 57 of the PDF.
Real effort. We have to work at surrendering. We try to surrender, and then we have the help of the Master. And here Baba says, the Master helps the aspirant in his own invincible ways, which have no parallel in the ways of the world. If the aspirant is to be the recipient of this help, he must make a real effort to surrender himself to the divine will of the Master. This should be in bold print. Real effort. Surrenderance of the false self is not something that is done just once. It is repeatedly done, over and over. And we surrender, we move in the spirit, experiencing more and more of the unlimited consciousness of the Master, of God. This is what it means to be born of the Spirit. We surrender the false self to the Master and live through the provisional ego, which is subservient to the Master, our higher self, or God. As we begin to surrender to the Master, laying down our samskaras, our burdens at the Master's feet, putting our trust completely in him and accepting his grace, we are taking a major step, letting go of the world. From our point of view, we are doing it to unburden ourselves, to be freer, because we are fed up with all the reincarnations, one after the other, and all the complications that go with them. But this is really spiritual progress. We have moved in the spirit. We have taken a step away from the illusory world and the limited self, and made a step towards the reality of God and the unlimited consciousness of God. To be born of the Spirit is a wonderful experience, but that is not enough. We still have to work and become freer of inner subjective things that create veils over our consciousness, so that we do not perceive the truth as it really is. We have to continue to surrender our self-will in favor of the will of God, which means putting desires and lesser values aside for the real value. Okay.
So any comments, any questions, any examples that anybody might want to share?
I have a question on the last paragraph. We still have to work and become free of inner subjective things that create veils over our consciousness so that we do not perceive the truth as it really is. What does it mean, become free? What are inner subjective things that create veils? Does that sanskaras?
Definitely.
Is that, oh,
Yeah. And
Hugh
they can
said
be,
yes.
They can be subconscious things that we're not even aware of, or they can be conscious attitudes that create the veils. You can know that it's good to be tolerant, you know, and yet you've got all sorts of prejudices that are kind of still working in there. Some of them you may not even be aware of. So it's, even in spite of knowing these things, there are still clouds over that have to kind of disperse.
So even though in your mind you know that it's ridiculous to be jealous, but you're possessed with it,
Yeah.
that's something that you can work with then by giving it to Baba,
Yeah, definitely. That's the
or
whole
that's the
thing.
best
The
way.
best you can give it to Baba. But Darwin used to say, you can't heal what you don't feel. The deeper the feeling, the deeper the healing. So sometimes going deep into your jealousy and digging it up by the roots and then giving it to Baba is the best that we can do. And Baba will dissolve it, you know, layer by layer. But it won't happen in one one time of giving to Baba. These are, it's peeling layers of the onion away until you get down to the no jealousy state. Okay. Any other comments? And anything that what Marta, the question she brought up, anybody wants to chime in on that, feel free.
Gabriella?
I also, that last paragraph, I wanted to say that, you know, if I don't have my glasses on, I can't see at all, right? But I put on my glasses and now I can see. But I need to clean them because there's schmutz on my glasses, which block my view. So I think that for me, like, or little cobwebs, or, you know, that's what I see that as. Yes, I'm finally seeing clearly, but it's stuff in the way. I want you to see better than that.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, you can feel that you're saved, but then the rest of you's got to be saved. I'm saved, you know, but then what about all the other baggage?
It's a long journey.
You know what, I'm going to get, we've brought this up before, and you know, he says to move in the spirit. Darwin has made a couple references to that. What does that, can someone describe what that is, to move in the spirit?
Anthony.
Okay, I'll try this one. I would think, instead of letting the whims and the impulses of your ego dictate your action, that you've let go of that, and now you're moving you're doing things based on intuition, you're doing things based on tuning to Baba's will. So I would think, I don't know, that's what's coming to me is what it would mean to move in the spirit, intuition and Baba's will versus the whims and the impulses of the egoic reactions pulling you, you know, here and there.
Yeah, very good, Anthony. Yeah, you framed it very well.
Nice. And Heidi?
Yeah, I was just reading the other day, one of my favorite books, Fragments from a Spiritual Diary by Norina. And if you have a chance to revisit it, do so, because she talks a lot about, or Baba talks through her about the provisional ego, and also about living in feeling. And there was a kind of quasi quote from Baba. He said, the avatar doesn't think, the avatar feels. And to me, that was a clue that spirit and that vibratory divine energy is accessible, and its favorite mode of transportation is feeling. So if we stop the heavy duty thinking and we just relax and we're not afraid to feel all our feelings, as Jeff was saying, somehow spirit works to balance it out, and then we could stay in a connecting mode with the divine, I think. But to me, that's spirit. There's a song that Aretha Franklin made famous called Spirit in the Dark. And if you look at those lyrics, it's all about staying in the spirit, even in the dark, or even in your dark moments. So check it out. It's fun.
Wonderful, Heidi. Very descriptive.
Hey, Baba.
Yeah, beautiful.
And Elizabeth?
I have a couple of things. Going to the last paragraph first, to be born in the spirit is a wonderful experience, but that is not enough. We still have to work and become free of the inner subjective things that create deals. So, you know, I'm in a God Speaks group, and so we're doing a lot of reading about the dream state. And when you go into the dream, it's similar to the sound sleep state of God and the beyond state. Sorry, in the beyond state. And no, beyond state. In any case, when you're in your dream, you have all these sanskaras from both past lives and the present life that come up. And they say you dream based on those sanskaras. And they bring up objects and people and things, some from the past and some could potentially be from the future. And then you wake up when your sanskaras become so strong that it wakes you up. And then you go about your day, like in a different room, kind of as Jeff said, and you act out which ones were the most pressing. And also in the process of life, I think we become attuned to things that come up. And, you know, as we get more comfortable and start peeling off the onion, they come out more and more and more. And sometimes it's really uncomfortable because you get slapped in the face with something you just don't want to deal with, whether it's jealousy or lust or greed or glutton. I mean, anything that, you know, and so you have to deal with it. And it might be sadness, and you may not know why you're doing any of these things. And then it's there, and you have to figure it out. And I think your intuition leads you to solutions. And what I mean by that is it somehow you run into people who say something, or you hear a passage that just happens to hit you. Or like last night in Artie, this song kept coming to me over and over and over. And finally I just said, okay, you know, Artie was basically over, and I brought it up, and it was important. It was, we are one in the spirit. You know, and it's, so anyway, so things like that, I think, happen. And it says further up that the surrenderance of the fault. So wait, I'll finish that one. So things come up from the subconscious is what I'm saying. And they can come from all kinds of things, and they come off over time. So in the second paragraph, it says, surrenderance of the false self is not something that is done just once. It is repeatedly done over and over. And Jeff has given that wonderful example of his dishwashing or thing with the plates, and they come off, and then they, yeah, I can't remember.
The spring-loaded plates.
That's right.
At the cafeteria. Yeah.
Right. So that's like our spring-loaded unconscious keeps slapping us in the face
Yeah.
for us to deal with. So, and I just wanted to say the other thing, today actually is what is called Holy Trinity Sunday, but it's it's also Sunday where they celebrate the Holy Spirit. And it's just interesting to me that there's so much a focus right now on the Spirit, because I definitely think it's moving.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments?
Prakash.
Jai Baba.
Yeah.
I just found a quote here that helps unravel something that I read from one sentence here that caught my attention. Here, Darwin says, "We surrender the false self to the master and live through the provisional ego, which is subservient to the master, our higher self or God." Then I happened to come across this, which I read before. I'll share it again. This is from this book, Meher Baba Calling. Here Baba goes, "Do all for me." So Baba says, the less you think of yourself and the more you think of Baba, the sooner the ego goes and Baba remains. When your ego goes away entirely, I am one with you. So bit by bit, you have to go. Today your nose, tomorrow your ears, then your eyes, your hands, everything. So better think of me when you eat, sleep, see, or hear. Enjoy all. Do not discard anything, but think it is Baba. Baba who enjoys, Baba who is eating. It is Baba sleeping soundly. And when you wake up, remember it is Baba waking up. Keep this one thought constantly with you. If you do wrong, then think Baba is doing wrong. If you get a pain, think it is Baba having a pain. If you do all this sincerely, you will know something. Try to forget yourself and do all for Baba. And he further continues, you should live a normal life and just love Baba and not be attached to your being. Then you will have a curtain of Baba's love protecting you from the world. So I thought this speaks about the aspect of provisional ego to some extent. So I thought I'll just share this with all. And my personal thought is basically the effort part that he talks about, the real effort, is actually to giving up things like, our jealousy, anger, greed. And we all know the cafeteria example that Jeff gave. So that is one part. The second part is acceptance. I mean, literally taking things as they happen, doing the best you can. And that is the effort I think Darwin is mentioning to help us move forward. Jai Baba.
Yeah, thank you, Prakash. And great quote. It's what makes it difficult. In the quote that you gave is when you do wrong or you do something bad, think Baba is doing it bad. That is a stumbling. That is a major hurdle. Right. And yet, if you think that Baba is the one who does this selfish thing, it's less binding than if you think that you did it. But that's a major hurdle. How could Baba behave like me? How could he have said that nasty remark to that person? It's very difficult to imagine that it's Baba doing it and not yourself.
Right, but I think, at least I don't know if I experienced that fully, but if I really consciously, knowingly think that Baba is doing all the wrong things that I do, then perhaps I'll be doing less and less of those as time goes by, because like you said, how can Baba do all this? So that question will prompt you to engage less in those things, I believe.
Yeah. I think it's the fastest and the best way, but it's just very difficult to imagine that Baba could, say such a sarcastic remark and hurt someone's feelings.
Sure.
I'm giving an example. But Baba's saying to do that very thing. Think that it's he who's doing it. But anyway, I throw that out as just a challenge to like a termite that goes into your brain and eats away at your all resistance.
Eat your brain out? Okay.
Yeah.
And Marta?
So isn't it also, though, the ego that says, oh, I couldn't think that Baba could do something bad. I couldn't do that. Isn't that the ego also having to say that the beloved said, think of me when you do even bad things. And the ego goes, oh no, I couldn't do that. Baba's so great and I'm, oh no. So isn't that just the ego playing a trick?
Yeah. It is. And yet it defies common sense. That's why it's so hard to get over that hurdle. That Baba is the doer of everything that we do. I mean, that is a great challenge.
And isn't that what the Mandali had to do? When Baba would have them do all these crazy things, they didn't think, oh God, I couldn't do that. I can't sit down in Baba's chair because even though Baba said sit there, because he's so great and I'm nothing. I mean, what's the difference? Is there any difference? It's the same trick of the ego, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and yet, and yet, Erich said that even if you think that Baba did this, or you assert that Baba did this, you also have to apologize. You know, it's a very subtle realm that we're talking about, and and one of us out of this group here is gonna figure it out and be able to do it, and the rest of us will. It'll spread like a pandemic, like a virus.
I think it'll be Meher Prasad.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Leitka?
Yes, for me with this, Baba didn't say he did it. You know, Baba said when the limited self does something, and sanskaras configure in such a way that you have manifested something that way, then think that Baba did it. He didn't say Baba did it. He said a way out of that, a way to, to not identify. I think for me, it's Baba saying, don't identify with, okay, you've done something, you've offended someone, or you've hurt someone, or stolen, cheated, whatever, jealous. Don't identify, don't further take a deep dive into that by going, oh, I did this, and I'm so bad, and, say, oh, no, Baba did it. The only way that I can go there is to say, well, Baba didn't say I did it. He said, say Baba did it, as a way to mitigate getting further entrenched in that energy. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm having a hard time hearing you, but is everybody else here all right?
Could you hear me okay? I don't know if I was close enough.
Yeah, we heard you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Angela.
Very good point. What you're saying is that identification afterwards is compounding the whole thing.
Yeah, well, it's kind of exactly what Marta was saying, about the ego. Well, in a way, the ego just really, it can glom on, as Baba has told us, it's a shapeshifter. It can, if it's not getting attention or energy this way, it'll shift over and go, like what Marta said about, I couldn't possibly sit in Baba's chair because, and it makes that story up. But all these stories are sanskaric, kind of manifestations of the ego or the limited self, as Baba calls it. And so say you did something bad. I know I've been terribly guilty of this, wearing the hair shirt You know, like, oh, I'm not good, and look what I did. I don't know why I did. And it's taking a deeper dive into that energy, becoming more bound by it. And your ego is kind of dancing on the tabletop, whereas Baba's saying, no, just nip it in the bud. Okay, you did it, you see it, you're sorry for it. Go to Baba did it. Baba did this, Baba did that, as well as good things. Baba did good things. Instead of, oh, look what I did. I, helped the poor and da da da. Try to think less of ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can do it. I can't think, oh, Baba was like ugly to that person. You know what I mean? I can't, like what you were saying, Jeff.
Yeah.
I can't go there. I don't know that I would ever be able to go there, but that's not what I hear when I read these sentences.
Yeah. Beautiful. No, very good, subtle points.
And Rita?
Hi, Jay Baba. I think the millennials have a solution for this. My husband's nephew and his wife are about to have their second daughter out in San Francisco, California. And so my husband's brother's out there, and he said to the older child, which is probably 2.5, 3 maybe, they're not allowed to use words like cute or pretty or nice or good to her. And so my daughter and I were like, what? And so we decided, well, the cute, the pretty is for gender association, and the nice and the good is so that she's not identified as just being that her shadow side is allowed to be just as acceptable. And, my daughter and I were like, well, that's kind of cool, because just like everybody's saying, we get so worried about our identification and attachment to what we consider good and bad. And really, it's all beyond that. Anyway, I just wanted to tell that little story. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Wow. That was a nice thing to say. No. That was good. No. No, very. It's, if they get that experience, if they can convey the truth of that, the kids are way ahead of the ball game, I would say. Okay, well, let's go on to the next section here.
All right, we're on page 98. The will of God.
The will of God. When we surrender to the Master, to God, we become more intuitive. The culmination of listening to the intuitions that come with self-effacement and complete surrender equates with the sixth plane of consciousness. Love expresses itself on the sixth plane as complete and happy surrenderance to the will of the beloved. One is completely reconciled to the will of God. All selfish desires, including longing for the presence of the beloved, have disappeared. At that stage, one is aware of the flow of the divine will within. The kingdom of heaven opens up for us while we are here on earth. Even a child can experience God's will, perhaps even more so than an adult who has a monstrous mind and an even bigger ego. This is why Jesus spoke of becoming like children, not childish, but childlike. We learn that we can trust in God, that God is trustworthy and dependable, more than we are. But to dare to go out on the limb of complete faith in God and depend upon His will for us, day to day, in every circumstance, requires a real effort, a real daring. I've had some experience with that, even from my early life when I was working on cattle ranches in the West. I was aware that I was doing things under the will of God. I felt that God was guiding me. This is something that is worth trying to experiment with, trying to see how we would deal with surrendering ourselves completely to God's will without having a whole side issue of things that we can draw upon to please ourselves. And when His will goes contrary to what we want to do, if we are willing to do His will rather than go with our will, we will make progress toward experiencing His unlimitedness, especially if we do it in the spirit of love. The sense of God's will coming through can become a steady, substantial, and reliable flow. Moreover, it is not so much like a message coming over a wire. It is an access to the presence of God. It is not something apart from God. It is an access to God. And this is where our consciousness begins to merge in God.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's loaded.
Well, I just was curious who might have experiences of that, of what Darwin's talking about. Because just to be perfectly honest, it feels pretty outside of my experience. And I just would like to know what that experience feels like for others.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep that on the table. That's a great question, and we'll come back to that if Cindy doesn't answer the question perfectly.
And Cindy?
Hello, beautiful people. What I was thinking was right in line with what Janet was saying. I mean, for about like 25 years of my life, I wanted to make my past marriage work. That was my will, not Baba's will. And at a Northeast gathering, like 4 or 5 years ago, sitting in front of Baba's chair after RT in the morning, he made the sign of complete, it's done. And I did not want that. And I didn't surrender to his will. And I tried to machinate, and he gave me what I wanted for a while, which just prolonged suffering. And like right now, like I don't live in the house that I, thought I would go out in a pine box in. There's issues with kids and estrangement, all that kind of stuff. But now in my life, with decisions from small to big, I ask Baba what's his will, and I can feel it clearly. And Baba's like, he's usually giving me the sign like, go for it, dear woman, or laughing, don't worry about it, or like, maybe not. But mostly all that Baba's doing right now is like, have some fun. And I know that what I feel like when I hear the intuition to stop something, I stop it now. I don't know if it's so much subservient to Baba, but it's Baba and me, because I don't want to cause an unnecessary suffering for myself. And what do I know? I thought I wanted the classic family with the husband and the 4 kids and the this and that. And I don't have that now. And I feel happier, more full, more connected to God, more in the state of being in love, with more possibilities than ever before, not having anything I want, but I thought I wanted. So I just feel Baba, and I let the impression come, and I trust that very first impression. I don't machinate with it anymore. And I listen. So thank you.
Beautiful. Great example. Yeah.
And Gabriella.
Hi. So last week I was telling people about how my cat was lost in the yard. I felt like she was like Baba, hiding and appearing. And yes, that was a real opportunity for me to surrender to Baba and to his will. And what is really interesting is the surprise. I always see that when there's a surprise, Baba is so original. He never fails to amaze with something completely different and so perfect. And so I was out there for just like basically for a week outside, waiting and looking and calling and blah, blah, blah. And one night, my cat was there under the ramp, and then this deer came. I sent Angela the little write-up of that. It was just like this unbelievably beautiful deer was looking at me, and I'd never seen, and then she stamped twice. Boom, boom. I've never heard a deer do that, like a pony. And then that happened like 3 or 4 times, and I knew that was Baba. I knew. I mean, there was not a question in my mind, you know? And then it was very still. My cat was nearby. I was there. The deer was there. And then these 5 little deerlets, let us call them fawns, they flickered across, you know? And they all walked off in the most beautiful way. So, and yes, now my cat is back inside, and I want to tell everybody so they know, they don't have to worry, or thank you for your prayers. I had no way of knowing. I had to totally surrender to that situation, that she might never be home again. I might never be able to catch her. But I just wanted to say that about Baba's originality. That's my sort of signal that he is in charge, that it's him. Thanks.
Yeah. Great. Wonderful.
Thank you, beautiful Cindy. So my question is, okay, I get what Cindy said totally, because that's a big thing. So do we do this with only like the big things that are troublesome? Or like, after I get done here, I'm gonna go to Trader Joe's. Like, would you say, Baba, do you want me to go to Trader Joe's or not? Like that? I mean, that would take a lot of time all day long to be asking Baba about tiny little things. I mean, how do you decide? How do you do this? Who has the floor plan?
Okay, anybody?
Well, I'll just jump in real quick and say that I do know people, Baba lovers, who basically they live alone, so they act like Baba's their partner. And so, should we have dinner now? Should I eat this for dinner? What do you think, Baba? And they do ask about every little thing. Eggplant? Yes? No?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it works too. But also, you can get a feeling without having to verbalize anything. Is this where I'm being impelled to move? You know, should I go over and to that part of Trader Joe's? Or I mean, what I mean is you kind of get an inner kind of movement. But there are plenty of hands that have come up.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's more, rather than asking, just having enough inner quiet to, or sometimes it don't have to be in a place of inner quiet, Baba just kind of, it's a strong feeling. The feeling comes like, go, just get up and go. You know, don't, why? Never mind, the feeling's there, so do it. And I found when I do that, it's usually, you know, you bump into the person you thought you had missed, or whatever it is. It could be something small like that, or something even bigger, or the opposite, where don't do that, you know. And so there's been a few times when it's almost been a literally loud voice in my head, do not do that. So for me, it's more just being sensitive and following the intuition. And the more you follow it and listen to it, and the more you trust it, the stronger it gets.
Yeah,
so,
excellent. I agree with that.
And Elizabeth.
What came up for me was recently there was a Zoom program on the Mondele or Elizabeth, and no, Charles. It was Charles Haynes talking about Elizabeth, and she, you know, had a place where she would put everything that had come to her for Baba to deal with, and then she had a saying. She said, "The day becomes the answer," so that whatever one has prayed about, Elizabeth let it unfold. And I think that to me is like paying attention to Baba's will and allowing what is supposed to happen in the flow of day to day to happen. Another example in a case which is more, major, although I don't know that Baba would separate between major and minor, because he said that small things may be just as important as big things. But I remember when my father was dying, and he was in a hospital in Greensboro. I'm in Raleigh, which is an hour and 15 minutes away. And I had been to see him, I think, just the day before. And all of a sudden, when I came back from work, and it was late, it was like 9, 10, 11 at night. And I got this powerful feeling that I needed to go see him, that I needed to go right then. And I left. It was 11. It was maybe a 10:30, 11. And I just left and went to the hospital. And I hadn't told my mother, my stepmother, and I knew she probably wouldn't be too happy if I just showed up, but I just had to fight that because I normally would say I'm coming and blah, blah, blah. And I ended up praying with him. I mean, he was not conscious, but saying prayers and telling him things and just whatever. And I stayed all night, and on my way home, my boss told me, don't bother to come in. I explained to him what had happened. And I just crashed. And then later that night, my brother called and said my nieces were coming and they were going to meet. And did I want to come? They were gathering that night and tomorrow. I said, no, I can't make it tonight. I'm just too exhausted. And at 3:30 in the morning, 3:15, I got a call from my brother again to say that my father had passed away. So I actually had gone at exactly the right time. And so I think there are powerful inner pushing, pulls for you to do certain things at certain times in life. And I think silence helps. If you're quieted, you can hear those or feel those or know those and then act on them. And the acting is the faith part.
Yeah, beautiful, good example. Yeah. Very good.
And Stuart?
Yeah, I know I'm not alone in this, and Don Stevens used to talk about it, but I'll have an intermittent kind of running conversation with Baba during the day, and it might be out loud and it might be inward depending on what's going on, but time and time again he's given me inspiration in solving things. It might be a construction challenge, like I said to him, oh gee Baba, what do we do with this? And just kind of stand there with it, and then it's clear. He lets me know. Or I've had it happen with mediation situations. One, I helped a settlement between a home builder and a guy buying an expensive spec house. And the next morning, the buyer called me. This was after complete settlement. Both guys paid me, and he tried to blow it all apart. And I just said, oh, Baba, my God, what do we do with this? And I just listened to the guy, with Baba sitting by my shoulder and me sitting by his, I don't know which. And all of a sudden I knew exactly how to approach it with the guy, and it worked. And that was Baba's inspiration.
Yeah. No, these things happen frequently among, I hear very things just like that.
Beautiful. And Mahu?
Yes, thank you for all the comments. I think some of this perhaps has to do something with a level of our faith and conviction, inner conviction with our beloved God, and how much do we let ourselves to experience God's will. Of course, our false self, which manifests itself into our speeches, thoughts, and actions, are always with us. It just is like a counteract, always active, always there. It's part of us, and that's the journey, that's the challenge. But the more that we think of him, I think that the more we think of Baba, the more we always participate him in our daily actions, our daily routines, our daily duties, responsibilities, the more we become firm in his presence in our life, the more we become firm in his love for us. So again, going back to Darwin, effort and grace, effort and grace. It requires our effort. It really does. All of a sudden this came to me now. I remember when Esfandiar Vesali, the six-plane saint, I would say, was here living with us by the grace of God for 5-6 years in Los Angeles, and he went to Myrtle Beach many times. He would always talk about us working. And sometimes, you know, he was trying to play with our minds. Said, well, you know, I like some of these Myrtle Beach people, Esfandiar would say, because they're serious. He would say they are Jedi. Jedi means serious. And they're working. They are constantly working. And that's the way you should love Baba. That's the way you should be with Baba. That's how I got here after I left the Prem Ashram up to now. So all of these things that Darwin say and Baba says and Mandeli says, still it requires our effort and therefore our action, our thoughts, then that becomes feeling, and our feeling that becomes action. I like to, same thing that Elizabeth referred to of the Charles talk the other day. You know, somebody, I think from this group asked him questions, you know, with all this stuff, what's happening, how can we handle it? And he mentioned something about Erich, and that has stayed with me since that day that Charles narrated this. He said, one time I went to, Charles Haynes said, one time I went to Erich, and I asked Erich, surrendering to Baba, talking about that is easy, but it's difficult, it's mostly difficult if you want to be consistent with it. So what should we do? How should we do it? And Erich, being so eloquently and intelligent and to the point, said, don't think about it. Begin to surrender now that you talk to me. Surrender some today, a little bit more tomorrow, a little bit more after tomorrow. Every day, just surrender a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then it will happen. Why? Because he will help you. When he sees that you're trying your heart out, he will help you. And I think that's the key. That is really the key. And beside that, if going back to first thing I started with about our faith and conviction in Baba, you know, when he says, I'm nearer to you than your own breath, I am nearer to you than your own breath. Oftentimes I try to test him. with my breath, Baba, are you there? Are you there? Are you there? You know, so this is not something ordinary, really, what he says. So he's closer to us than our own self. He is closer to our soul than our own false self. So which way do we go? Do we gear more toward our false self, or do we gear more toward Baba? Which one is a winning game? I say Baba. And then with that, I say Avatar, Mer Baba Ki Jai.
Good. Beautiful.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And Anthony?
Jay Baba, that was great, Mahu. Actually, reflecting on what Cindy was saying, it just really struck a deep chord in me. Just that one of my biggest motivators in trying to surrender to Baba's will. I mean, how Cindy was sharing that she thought she wanted the husband and the kids and that whole game, you know, for a while, and then after a while, you know, she realized maybe that wasn't exactly what she wanted, and she's feeling that more now. And I mean, I've just had things happen like that. I mean, not that big. That's like a decades long thing, but just seeing how where I thought I wanted something, and I thought, hey, I'm this type of person that likes this and wants this type of thing, and Baba's like trying to give you something else, and you know, you're not accepting it, and then years down the road you see that, wow, he was right. And the thing that would just slowly dawn on me is that he knows me better than I know myself, and that's a big one, because I think every year that becomes more and more clear that I thought I knew who I was. I mean, even on these little levels of like, hey, I like this type of environment. I like to work doing this type of work. I like these type of people, this type of thing. And you know, just the more that time goes by, I see that what I thought I was into, I really wasn't into it. You know, it was just these patterns I've been in, or these little dreams that I thought I wanted to live out. And so I think that's been my biggest motivator recently to surrender to his will, is just really realizing that I don't know myself like I think I used to, and that he really knows me and is trying to bring the best thing for me. So
yeah, good point. Yeah, our self-knowledge can be a little spotty sometimes.
Yeah, and Mayor Prasad?
Yes, to me the surrendering part is really about not controlling the results, or not worrying about the results too much. Just leave the results to him, and let him take over on whatever the outcome of that is, but still try to do our best to please him in all circumstances. And I remember Adike Irani always used to say, try to please him always. And he used to quote Baba's saying that, where he said that the thing that most pleases him is three things. One is to think of things that you do not hesitate to think in his presence. Speak words that you do not hesitate to speak in his presence. And do and act deeds that you would not hesitate to do and act in his presence. If you do those three things, you will please him the most. That's that occurs to me.
Excellent. Yep. These are all great keys, aids in trying to discover what Baba's, I prefer to say Baba's wish, or what his love wants to do. Yeah.
Heidi?
Yeah, the last sentence of this little chapter, Will of God, is so powerful. And it reminds me, I want to read it again, but I want to mention that there's a concept in psychology called flow. And even that you can immerse yourself in a state of flow when you do something creative or really any activity. And it's the same as feeling like you're in the zone with something. You start something and you're just flowing with that, and you just feel joyous, and you're just in the right place, that you feel everything's in alignment. And people strive to have that skill. It's a skill to try it. And Darwin, I think, really developed within himself early on. He even talks in this chapter about when he was in the cattle ranches in the West. He said, I could feel that God was guiding me. He was young then, I think. And so I just want to mention that the idea of flow might be helpful. And Darwin says it like this in the last paragraph: the sense of God's will coming through can become a steady, substantial, and reliable flow. Moreover, it is not so much like a message coming over a wire. It is an access to the presence of God. It is not something apart from God. It is an access to God. And this is where our consciousness begins to merge with God. So it's like, try to be in the flow. And someone said, instead of saying in the zone or in the flow, they used to say to me, okay, I get it. I'm hitting middle C on the piano. So it's kind of, it's all these things it's different for everybody, but you get the idea. You have to put a feeling, you have to oomph yourself to feel and get away from the thinking energy a little teeny bit, and then Baba grabs it. And then, it's like being in, following the water current in the right direction.
Yeah, great
Yeah, Baba.
example. Yeah, great metaphor. You probably got it from the horse's mouth.
Go ahead, Hugh.
Two of the biggest things I remember from Darwin's meetings at 2 Castine Street were one in terms of surrender. The way to do that, Darwin said, was to just think of whatever you're thinking, whatever you're saying, whatever you're doing in Baba's presence. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't do it. And then the other thing was that came up a few weeks ago, and it's the idea of Sahaj Dhyan, which is also connected, because the more you think about remembering Baba and dressing your soul with Baba's love at those times, you start to do it over and over throughout the day, as Jeff has said, and as a result, Baba's there with you.
Yeah. There's a beautiful, yeah, I mean, that's right, that comes right out of those meetings. If you, I mean, of course, if you can get Baba's companionship and you feel him with you, a lot of these decisions are a little easier to make. And even if you do, Baba, I'm going to do something selfish here, you're doing it in his presence, so it's not as when he's in the equation, it softens the whole thing. But there's a beautiful line. There was a book years ago called Conversations with God by a guy named Walsh, but there was a beautiful, and these were where Jesus would speak to him, and one beautiful thing that Jesus said to him was to ask yourself, what would love do now? Ask yourself that question, and I will be with you always, in all ways. But I think that line often comes to me. What, in this situation, what is the loving thing to do? and then what do I want to do? Well, I can sometimes know what the loving thing is to do, and I know what I want. And so I have to surrender to what I know is the loving thing. And that's, we come to that crossroads time and time again. And that these little surrenders eventually become a larger surrender. And then I wanted to mention one thing too, is that in observing Erich all those years, like he had intuition, but actually what happens eventually is you actually begin to embody intuition. So you don't have to kind of access it. Your movements and what you say and do is intuition itself. You're embodying it. So you don't have to make this, I mean, I'm talking about, this is PhD level eventually, but eventually into your life will be a living intuition. And you don't even have to do so much thinking, because we put such a high premium on knowing, whereas loving is actually greater than knowing. You know what I mean? So you can sometimes not know what you're doing, but the love is what's conveyed, and it actually did the best thing in a situation, even if you didn't actually know what you were really doing. But the love got the thing done. The love got expressed, and that was greater than kind of necessarily knowing what you're doing. Anyway, that's some observations. I hope we help answer Janet Jacobs' question in various ways. We circled around it.
Yeah, no, you helped a lot, and it helped me realize that I do it. I mean, somehow reading that, it seems so distant from me. But in the conversation, and I was thinking about the thing I know some of us say that is, I now surrender all thoughts, words, and deeds to you, Baba, at the beginning of the day, and then at the end of the day saying, Baba, I did to you all that I did, thought, or spoke, good and bad. And that in a way that sort of sets the day up to be on that, to let Baba in, to help Baba direct us, even sometimes when we may not be consciously saying, Baba, should I drink this glass of water right now? Or, I mean, that's trivial, but that then there's this element of trust that comes in next that says, I trust that Baba was with me in making these decisions. So thank you all. I appreciate everyone's wonderful suggestions.
Yeah, thank you. Well, great, wonderful questions that you always ask.
And Stu?
Yeah, Jeff at a really advanced PhD level. As Fundiar was asked if he repeated Baba's name, and he said, I'm just with Baba. No, I don't repeat his name. I don't have to. And he was such an elevated soul, but he spent all those years just working at loving Baba inwardly. And he said we can all do that. We can all keep taking steps in that direction. We all have that in us. So that was encouraging.
Yeah, great example. Yeah, he was kind of like Baba's name embodied. Embodiment of Baba's name.
Wow. And Marcia?
I wrote a chat, but it disappeared and I wasn't going to talk. But I had to put Lucy down today. And she just got suddenly sick, and I've had her taking care of her for a couple of days. I don't know what happened. But I had to surrender her to Baba, and I had to decide, I didn't want her to suffer. So, I put her down. It was very hard because she's such a part of my life. But the funny thing was that 3 days before, my niece in Georgia called me, and she's got to have some health issues. So she said, could I take her 2-year-old dog? And I said, oh, yeah, she'd be a good friend for Lucy. And so right now, I don't even know if I can deal with taking another dog, but look how it works, My dog suddenly gets sick and passes, and somebody wants me to take care of their dog, and I'm like really freaked out. But I'll be okay, because Baba puts us in these situations, but you know, I really loved her so much. And what's the important part of it is that I've been hearing all these people, everybody talking about all these painful things that have been happening, but until you suffer loss, and I've had lots of losses, but I don't know why this one's hit me the most, but I think it's maybe lost for everybody, and everything I've ever lost is what I'm feeling like right now. So I just want you guys to know that you have to experience stuff to really feel it. Reading it in books and talking about asking Baba if you should drink a glass of water. I mean, that's cool, but he's got a lot of things on his plate besides deciding if you should drink water or not, you know? I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but, you know, anyway, you just have to handle your own stuff and be loving and know he's inside you. And I asked myself, well, what did I do wrong or why did you take her? But it was her time to go because everybody loved her. Like, she was like, probably not going to be a dog anymore. I always like said, used to joke and say she was champ. So he just took her back like she was a gift, you know. So you just got to appreciate everything that God gives you. Anyway, that's all I can say.
Yeah, I know it's, and the love that we feel for, you know, our pets is not any less than what we feel for the near and dear ones in our life. I mean, where do you find such unconditional love sometimes?
You know, the thing about it is that she was such a great dog. Like, I'd walk her and everybody, she would kiss everybody and get down for every dog. I mean, she's like probably going to be a person, you know. That's what I think. I think this was her last dog life, you know. But like now I'm like looking out the window and like I just keep seeing flashes of, you know, she was here and there, and it's really, I don't know. I mean, I've lost so many things in my life. I don't know why this one hit me so hard, you know. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a greater, ever deepening love in your heart, year by year. So these things are much greater to lose than when you're a teenager, say, you know, or whatever.
Anyway, thank you for listening.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Marcia.
Jai Baba. And Meher Prasad?
Yeah, sorry, Marcia. We have a dog, and I can totally, you know, feel what you're feeling when you lose the dog. And you know, one thing that really helped me was Charles Haynes telling once about what Baba did when they lost their dog. Baba said that your love for me will help his dog. I think the name was Buff. Your love for me will help Buff. So I always remember that you know, when we think of Baba, when we say Baba's name, and the name falls on on the dog's ears, I like to think that it helped the dog. Anyway, I thought I'll share that. Hey, Baba.
I think some of the, I think dogs go from there to the human kingdom. I think horses go to the human kingdom. Am I right? Elephants go to the human kingdom, and monkeys. I think that's the last stop in the animal kingdom before going into the human kingdom. And their first stop is New Jersey, you know. No.
I knew she went right to Baba because I was with her to the end. You know, they let me be with her, and she like last night. She was like just sleeping, and she didn't wake up, and she was like, so I said, well, I gotta go hydrate her and put her decide what to do. You know, so they said, oh, I could do this and that, and I said, no, I don't want her to suffer because she's not gonna be the same. You know, so I had to make that decision, but when they put her down, she just went right out. And I kissed her and said the prayers, and I knew she was with Baba right away. And I know that I'm not supposed to be upset about it, but I told him I don't care. I still have to feel bad, you know? And I know it holds things back, but I told them don't cremate her for 3 days because I don't know if dogs hover over their bodies like people, you know? I don't know. It's kind of weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
Now I have to decide, do I want another dog or not? Because I'm not really prepared to have a dog come on the 10th of June after this happened, but then I know my niece needs me, so I have to figure out how do I decide what to do. So I said, well, I just kind of wait and see, what Baba wants me to do. It's all you can do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, just put it like Elizabeth, on the mantelpiece, and then see what comes up the next morning,
Yeah.
so to speak. Well, have we got time for one more section? Oh,
yes.
This is the very last section of this
All right.
chapter.
I don't live there anymore. Meher Baba says, progress from one surrender to greater surrender is a progression from a minor conquest to a major one. Now, this juxtaposition of surrender and conquest has always amused and startled me, because we ordinarily think of surrender as a negative thing, as a giving up, a letting go. We do not usually think of it as being a conquest, but Baba puts these two together. Surrendering the false self to the master is the first part of a major conquest over the ego. It is not a loss, but a victory. All this is part of the work that is the spiritual path, and grace is of paramount importance. I feel that my greatest strength comes from ceasing to struggle with things in the illusory realm and surrendering to the master, lining up with his will and accepting his help, his grace. In doing this, I experience security and stability. And I know I have at least one foot in the door. His divine love and grace dissolve any remaining veils. Through what Meher Baba calls gradual stages of ego transformation, our old egoism is replaced by humility, which is based on the knowledge that the master is really doing everything. Our surging desires are replaced by a steadily growing contentment, and selfishness is replaced by selfless love. When we are at long last ready to turn toward home, toward our real home, we can heave a great sigh of relief as we surrender the self to the master. We die to the false and we are born of the spirit. We realize that we are timeless and were never really enslaved by anything. We change our address. We say, I don't live there anymore. There is an actual sense of salvation that goes with this. Spiritual security and sanctuary, all due to the grace of God. How beautiful he writes, J. Baba.
Imagine that you're 92 and you're typing things like this on a typewriter.
Well, if you were Emerson in last life, you've got some gifts, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yesterday morning, we got a surprise frost. And this year, I started my plants. I took Baba's name every time. I nursed them in the greenhouse. Like I did everything I felt to please Baba. I went out yesterday morning. We'd had a frost, which did not come up on our news. It didn't. So I had no pre-warning. And I lost a lot of my above ground plants. And I was so sad. I was like, Baba, I did everything, I said, this is your garden. And as soon as I said, this is your garden, I went, yeah, this is your garden. It's not really my garden. Okay, well, I'll do what I can and let's get on with the day. Do I do that all the time? No. But because it was such a long process, he just slapped me up the side of the head. It was just, anyway, reading this, it just, yep, that was it. Surrender. Jai Baba.
Great example. Great example. And like Mayor Prasad said, you you surrender the results. Unfortunately. Any other comments? You know, one thing that Erich used to say in Mandalay Hall, it's maybe partially relevant here. He said, you Westerners, he said, you Westerners, when you find an obstacle in your path, you make these Herculean efforts to rise above them and get over the top and on the other side. In the East, when we come up against an obstacle in our path, we just fall at his feet. So that's interesting. We kind of like to work these things out and get over it ourselves also with Baba, but also we're there. And I mean, I'm just throwing that out as quite a dramatic difference in approach. Anyway.
Jeff, I didn't quite catch what you said at the end. We follow, what is it?
We fall at his feet. When we have an obstacle, we surrender. We fall at his feet and ask for help. They don't have any, well, I shouldn't bother Baba with this ridiculous problem I've got. Where did we get that idea? You know, I mean, our fellow beings don't like to necessarily have us drop our problems at their feet, but is Baba, does this bother Baba? You know? Okay.
Marta?
Just had one little thought about that. I think in my younger part of my life, my red flag was, I'm independent. I can do this myself, and proving that. And so to surrender to Baba and give it all to him, I think it took time in my life to come to a place where that gave me elation instead of making me feel imprisoned. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. No, I think we've all kind of evolved that way, just as you said. So, we are down toward the end. I was wondering if I could get Ken to play. Ken, are you up for playing a song? And then we'll after he's done, we'll have a few moments of silence.
Betty and I went up to see her grandson, just under a year old, yesterday. And I always, not always, but recently brought my guitar. And this was his favorite song, so I'll sing that. Sweet breeze, will you bring me a handful of roses? Petals that scatter on the cool of the evening. The garden and the trees will not miss them if you bring them to the safety and warmth of my cheek. Here Hear my pleas, oh my beloved. They will make us feel closer each night. A flower's embrace to remind me of your ever-present kindness until morning light. Oh love, how the beauty of the full moon is rising. Jewel of my soul, desire for your sight. Fly to the windows of my eyes, and my words tiptoe halfway out the threshold in the night. Hear my pleas, oh my beloved. They will make us feel closer each night. A flower's embrace to remind me of your ever-present kindness until morning light. Sweet breeze, will you bring me a handful of roses? Petals that scatter on the cool of the evening. The garden and the trees will not miss them if you bring them to the safety and warmth of my cheek.
Jai Baba. Thank
Jai
you,
Baba.
Ken. Let's have a few moments of silence with Baba. Jai Baba. Wow. And so if anybody wants to stay on for a heart-centered meditation, it's very short, but it's very rich and full. And a lot of this love that you feel, it will expand in this very lovely meditation. And there are certain, and it's sometimes focused on particular individuals and also back on yourself. So, but anyway, before we go on, anyone have anything, any loose change? Anything we haven't, any questions or anything?
I just have one quick question,
Yeah.
Jeff. Tonight is at 10 o'clock? Is that?
Oh, yeah. Tonight at 10 o'clock. Good. I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a woman she was the daughter of one of Baba's intimate mandalay, Minu Karas. She's telling the story of his meeting with Baba, and also she's going to share her meetings with Baba when she was there in the 60s. So she's a wonderful person, and so that's at 10 o'clock after the RT, 10 o'clock Eastern time, after the RT. But she's a very beautiful person, and grew up with Baba right from childhood. One thing that stands out, well, maybe I shouldn't give it away. Well, maybe not all of you will be there, but when she was a little girl sitting next to her father at the East-West gathering, her father said, "Don't take your eye," I'm paraphrasing, but this as I remember, "Don't take your eyes off of him. What you see will stay with you the rest of your life." What you see in Baba up there on the dais will stay with you the rest of your life. And she took that to heart.
I'll share something. I just have such overflowing gratitude. Like I feel like what my cup overfloweth feel like. And in that state, like to be in service in any way, which I could do whether we are having the heart-centered meditation or not. But I'm very grateful to have the community and the leadership, the guidance that Stu will bring to be able to, in Baba's conscious grace with all of us, channel that out, because it's I can't keep it for myself. I would explode.
Yeah. No, it's something. It really is something that is very deep experience. Well, you have the floor.
Okay. And you have your seats. Okay, Jai Baba. So just relax into wherever you're sitting or laying. And we'll journey away from the world even a little more now during this time. And start breathing fully and gently into your belly as we do this. And follow your breath in. And now picture breathing into your heart and your heart center. And this is the home in all of us of Baba's infinite love. It's always there, it's always flowing. The shop never closes. It's the source of incredible gifts and wonders and inspiration. And now as we keep breathing into our bellies, pick someone who you would like to focus on sharing Baba's gift of infinite love with. It could be a person, even a group, but let your heart guide you. Just see who comes up for you. And sometimes people feel they need to focus on themselves. although we will be coming back to ourselves afterwards. But this practice of sending love to someone else can be incredibly powerful and healing in the case of conflict, even past conflict. And it's very powerful. So you know someone's been going through a lot of struggle, a lot of challenges. And maybe you simply would like to share this incredible gift with them and focus on them. And maybe you already love them very much and just want them to have even more. But again, let your heart guide you. See who you choose. And get a good image of them in your mind and your heart. And picture their heart and their heart center. And as you keep breathing in gently, start to picture Meher Baba's infinite, incredibly generous love flowing into their heart and heart center. And see and feel this love flowing in endlessly. And I see this warm, delicious, golden, liquid light of love. And it's warming and filling every little bit of their heart and their heart center. There's no little corner of their heart that's not being touched by the flow of this infinite love. And this love is healing and soothing, endlessly giving. It's uplifting, inspiring, enlightening, forgiving. And now see the love flowing so fully that it's flowing, overflowing from their heart and heart space and flowing right through without end, just giving from its wonder and magic. And you never know what wonders might happen from this focus of love. And now see this love filling their entire being, every bit of them. their body, their mind, their heart, their soul. Let's stay here another moment, sharing this infinite love. And now let's give thanks for being able to focus on sharing Baba's infinite love with whoever you've chosen. And let's bid farewell to them for now, and know that you can return back here again and again. And as you keep breathing into your belly, now gently bring your attention back to your own heart and heart center. And take note of whatever you might see and feel as you settle in there. And now start to picture Meher Baba's infinite love flowing into and filling completely your own heart and heart center. And see the love filling without end. And now overflowing from your heart. And flowing through your heart. And just continuing to flow. And this love is cleansing and healing. It's uplifting, enlightening, inspiring, forgiving. And it never ends in its generous flow. And again, we never know what magic this love might bring, and it does bring magic. And now see the love flowing so fully that it's filling your entire being, every bit of you. There's no bit of your body, your heart, mind, and soul not being touched by this love. And just drink it in for a couple of minutes and let your heart drink. Let's take one more moment with this love. Now let's give thanks for being able to focus on the flow of Meher Baba's infinite love in our own hearts and beings. And again, know that you can keep returning here again and again. This endless flowing pool of love is always available. And now gently start to bring your awareness back to where you're sitting or laying. And keep breathing in and give yourself a few moments to adjust, coming back. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And as we gently come back, if anybody would like to share anything, we'd love to hear you.
I'd like to share. I remember once being at the center and talking to Jeff and about Darwin Shaw, and like going for ordinary happiness. So you don't, it's rather than like cloud 9, like cloud 5 or something like that. And I have to say that the experience today feels like bliss or ecstasy. And I said to Baba, "Oh, you need to, help me so I don't feel too big." And Baba said, "This is cloud 5. This is ordinary happiness. Like what I thought was happiness before. Like get used to this as the baseline of what I can handle now." And I just thought that was so cool. Like this is ordinary happiness, to be able to receive and flow Baba's love and light and surrender to him.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
And we deserve that. We're worthy of it. Ah, nice.
Hi, Stu. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Hey, everyone. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba Shraddha.
Jai Baba. It was a beautiful meditation today. Very peaceful. I've wanted to tell you this, that over the past few weeks, as my father passed away, when his health deteriorated, I've been doing this heart-centered meditation all through. And before my dad was admitted in the hospital, and while I was doing the same meditation, I got some kind of a message in that meditation. It said, "It's time, let him go." And I was trying to resist it a lot. I tried to resist it a lot, and I kept praying to Baba for a miracle. Of course, how the mind plays, but all through his stay in the hospital, and my sister tells me this later, that he saw Baba, in his room. He was constantly remembering Baba. And just before he went unconscious in the ICU and stuff, I continued to do the meditation. I did not know that he had seen Baba and all of that stuff. But as he got more critical and more serious, that day I saw Baba come to take him. And I had not known that he had seen Baba then, before he went to the critical unit. And I kept continuing the meditation, even after he passed away and stuff. And after he passed away, the day after, I saw him, keeping his hand over my mom's head, because I think she was kind of feeling guilty. She, as all of this happened, she kept telling, we should have done something earlier, sooner. We couldn't even figure out why this happened so fast and how his health deteriorated so fast, because just one day before he was talking normally. And the next day I saw Baba embrace my sister. And I did not know that night she slept thinking I couldn't even embrace my father one last time before he left, and she was missing him so much. And I mean, it was just all along Baba being there through the entire process. It was just so beautiful that he didn't want us to feel guilty that we didn't do enough, or we didn't do the right things. Of course, after I kept doing the meditation, none of those things, I didn't see any of the other things later on. I couldn't see Baba later on, any of that stuff, but only during those 3-4 days when all of these things were happening. I thought it was just very beautiful, and I thought I should share this with you. Yeah. Jai Baba.
Wow. Jai Baba, thank you, Shraddha.
Really
Thank
beautiful.
Wonderful to hear that from you.
And I mean, that Baba would be there at the end with you and each of them. How, I mean, that's that is just miraculous. But the compassion just to be there, help you through one of the most painful times. Yeah.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai, Jai Baba.
Wow. Yeah.
It seems like it's comforting, Shraddha.
Oh, gee. Yeah, I see your father in my mind's heart, and he is just joyous, over the last, number of days. Not at all lost, just, he is just radiating, the joy. And thoughtful of each of you. That's what I feel.
Well, good night, dear people. I'm going to sign
Yeah.
off, and I just wanted to
Great.
say thank you so much,
Yeah.
Jeff and Stu and everyone,
Sure.
and especially sending to Marcia and Shraddha tonight as you navigate life.
Thank you, Cindy.
So
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Thank you for your
Thank
sharing.
you so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you
Jai
later.
Baba.
Thank you, Stuart. Great meditation.
Yeah.
Really
Great.
helped. Thank you.
Good. You're
I
welcome.
do it every night.
Good. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Che Baba.
Good night, Elizabeth.
Jai
It was
Baba.
beautiful as always. Everybody's shares were so beautiful, and blessings to Marcia and to Shraddha especially. Che Baba.
Thank
Jai
you,
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Yeah.
Ditto what
Jai
Elizabeth
Baba.
just said. You guys touch my heart, and I appreciate it.
God bless you.
I think lots of hearts touched.
No, it's yeah. We're down to the last 7 drunks. Still hanging out at the bar. They haven't kicked us out yet.
Yeah. Taking in the fumes.
Yeah. No,
I remember how, Jeff, during the Baba Darshan programs, I remember how the people would never be willing to leave. And Baba had to make up some strategy to make them leave.
Yeah, he would say, "Are you all willing to obey me?" Well, yes. Then everybody must leave at such and such a time. I mean, he would first get them to agree that they will obey him. And then he would say, everybody must leave. Okay, wow. Lanita and Julie. Yeah. Rosalie. Yeah. Well, just to say, anybody's interested tonight that Roshan, Goer Mobed is going to share her father's life with Baba. He was one of the Mandalay, and her own experiences of meeting Baba tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Yeah. Well, I've got to go to work, Stu, and thank you so much, really. Well, I'll show you one thing. I was, I picture, as you know, I kind of give the love to Baba. That's what I usually focus on. But this time I saw, I was focusing on the the scenes in which Baba is kind of pulled down. And I imagine, you know, this love going to him in his pulled down state. You know, some of the movies where you can tell he's exhausted and tired. And and the thing is it is all happening now. In other words, it's not like it's not like this love is going to a film of Baba. That is happening right now in this present. So it actually can go right to Baba. That was the flash that I got, that it was going to him even in those times. But anyway, I mean, I don't know if it seems a little esoteric, but it was kind of quite simple.
No,
that you know, his life his life is going on right now in this moment.
Yeah.
And it's possible to love him not by way of the movies, but directly.
Yeah.
Right here. 1932, Baba was right here. You know, 1962, he's right here.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that was
beautiful.
Yeah, and it's all live now.
Yeah, it's and I did check that out with Darwin. You know, I mean, I said to Darwin, because I had that experience years ago. I said that Baba lived his life in time, but I said, Darwin, I have a feeling also that this life is going on in the timelessness. So 1932 is right now. 1914 is right now. Baba's childhood is happening right now. And Darwin agreed with me, you know. Because people would say to Darwin, you know, Darwin, you get to share these stories and you get to relive your times with Baba. And Darwin would say, not relive my times with Baba. I get to live my times with Baba.
Yeah.
It's happening. It's not a past experience being relived. It's a present moment being lived for the first time, you might say. It's hard to imagine, but love is that way.
But I think just what we experience together is proof that it's ongoing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Shraddha, thank you for sharing that. You know,
Yeah, beautiful.
You have one of the finest fathers you could ever have, and that will be imprinted. His love will be imprinted in your heart for the rest of your life.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you, Stuart.
Felt the world for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Stu, I've got to head down the road and go to work. Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Okay, good night, folks. Jai Baba.